Hi, and welcome to Heart-Centered Success. I'm your host, Diane Hayward, and I'm really excited about our topic today. We're going to be exploring the question, how does joy fuel success? Now, many of you have been watching this program for a while, and you know that to me, that heart-centered success comes from a life that's lived by really living into your passion and your purpose and letting that be what fuels your success. I think joy is a really important part of that, and I've got a fantastic panel here today that's going to help me explore that. So let's meet them. First, I want to welcome Reverend Sylvia Sumter with Unity Church of Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for coming today. I'm thrilled that you're here.
Thank you for having me. It's a joy.
And it will be it'll be joyier in just a little while. And right next to Reverend Sylvia, we have Jen Koken. Jen is a coach, an author, a speaker, and a comedian. So you'll see why she's here. And Jen, give us the name of the title of your book.
When I Die, Take My Panties.
Again, you see why I've got her on here, right? Okay. Now, last but not least is my friend Mandy Gordon. Mandy is a Play co-activist, and she's going to explain that because you probably don't exactly understand what that is yet. We'll get to that in a second. Mandy, hi. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, you should be, right?
I know.
Because why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you be? As you can tell, this is a really beautifully diverse group of women. And I invited them because each of them brings, to me, just a different flavor of joy and an aspect of joy. So before we get started, let's just talk about a little bit about what is joy to you. Reverend Sylvia, what is joy to you? How do you know when you're in joy?
For me, joy is a state of being. It's not necessarily an emotion, but it's a state of being that when I'm in it, I feel more connected to life. I feel open. I feel expanded in my being, and I'm just sort of willing to engage everything from a really high place, and it's just fun. It's just a sense of it's better than happiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Better than happiness. It's a fullness.
Wow. Oh, a fullness. Wow. Jen, what about you?
Well, this probably will come as no surprise. Joy is like when you're filled with laughter. You know, for me, I think about the solar plexus chakra and being connected to that third chakra and the color yellow and feeling full in there, which is your space of self-esteem and living your true purpose. You know, heart-centered success and joy are so connected. And it is a state of being, like you were saying, I think you can look it up in the dictionary, but joy is distinct for each of us. It's experiential. It's a state of spaciousness and laughter, fun, play. Absolutely. And I know when I'm not being joyful when I've lost my sense of humor.
And I would think for a comedian that's kind of
it's a rough spot to be in. Yeah, you don't want to see me that day.
Right.
So now Jen just talked about play. Let's talk to our resident Play co-activist. Tell us what joy is to you, Mandy.
I don't want to be the last one to get asked the question anymore because I have nothing left to say.
I'm sure you're going to make something up.
Yeah, I am. I'm still going to make it up. Yeah. For the word I would add, the two words I want to add, and I think that you both said variations on this theme, are delight and connection. I think for me, especially through the lens of play, what joy, spontaneous joy that arises from moments of true play are really about connection above all else. And the moments when we're delighted, delighted, delighted because we're together, delighted because I have a flamingo over there with a shamrock hat on. That's just pure joy. It's a very opening and expansive experience, I think.
Well, now you all said words that I associate with divine, actually. Creative. I always think of the divine, rather that's God, universe, whatever it is that creative, expansive, intelligent energy. And to me, that's what joy is.
Yeah.
I notice that when I'm really in a place of joy, and I agree with you, it's not a happy place. You can be happy, But joyful transcends that.
Yes.
There's no, you can be joyful with friends and family. You can be joyful in your work, in your hobbies. For me, there's time stops. You ever had that happen where time is just no longer, you're just not aware of it. And to me, it is another way to experience love, that divine love.
Yeah.
I think that it's, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's so important that we talk about it in this venue, because it's really just such a vital part of life. And I say that understanding that it's not always a part of everyone's life, or it's not necessarily a constant. So before we go further, I really do want to say that if you're in a place where there might be some depression going on, or you're dealing with some sort of a trauma, absolutely get the help that you need. I personally believe that we can be joyful, but there are certainly times in my life where I've had to find appropriate help, right? Because I wasn't feeling joyful, and believe me, in those times I would have said, yeah, lady, I'll tell you where you can put your joy, because it was just not what my reality was. What I'd like to explore today is understanding that sometimes you need help to get to that place. But let's look at ways that when you are in that joyful place, how it impacts our life. That's what I'm really interested in today, because I just think it does. I just think it does.
It does.
So now, in each of your businesses, joy is expressed and worked with in a different way. Now, I think you actually have a beautiful, joyful job as a reverend. Tell us some of
Not always, but yeah.
Not always, but you are present at some of the most joyful times of people's lives. What is that like?
Well, it's wonderful, but I want to piggyback on what you said, because yes, it's nice to be there when people are getting married, when people are christening their little ones. I love to hold a new soul and christen them as they look in my eyes. It's beautiful. But I'm also learning to find the beauty in those times when life is not such a great happening.
Right.
Because if I can find still that underneath all of that, there's still an essential joy to life. If I can touch that, that's what enables me to move through all of the other experiences that on the surface may not feel like joy. Because it's a state of being. I'm looking for me to be able to take this state of being into every experience I have. Whether I'm burying someone, or I'm christening or blessing someone, or whether I'm, it's that inner state of just being connected. I loved your definition of connectedness, because later on I might have an opportunity to share my spiritual vision statement, the guiding force or principle that guides me. And it has to do with connection. So, joy is what life's all about.
And I do think, now this sounds a little funny, but some of the biggest belly laughs I've ever had has been at funerals, where people were remembering with joy and celebrating the person that passed. And it did not mean there wasn't grief or sadness.
Exactly.
But there was such a sense of joy and celebration.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's a really important part.
Yeah, that's life. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's making a choice when you're able to, right, to do that.
Yeah.
How fun is that?
That's good.
So you just talked a little bit about the way joy fuels your business. You're taking this internal joy and using it in your business, right?
Yes.
What about in your personal relationships, in your health?
In all aspects of its life. So for me, I'm learning not to separate any aspect of my life, whether I'm working as a minister, or whether I'm playing golf on the golf course, or here with these wonderful souls. It's all a part of an opportunity for me to express myself in the most highest way that I can, which would have to include joy for me. Joy, the joy of living, the fullness of living, connection, coming from a deep spiritual place. So it fuels everything.
So that really goes into the oneness thing, doesn't it? So we don't use joy just for business, even though we've got some people here who are in the joy business.
Yes.
Right? But your health, relationships, it's just a part of who you are. Now, Jen, talk about the joy business.
Yeah, well, it's interesting what you said, Reverend Sylvia, because I always say there's a real distinction between being a human doing and a human being.
Yeah.
We are a human being, yet we so define ourselves by work, by I'm married or I'm single or I'm dating or I'm a middle child or I'm the youngest or I'm the eldest or where we grew up. But when we're talking about joy, it's a state of being. And it's not even a state of becoming, because that's something that won't necessarily happen. It's a state of being. You know, the reason I wrote my book and why it's called When I Die, Take My Panties is to remind people to live in the moment now.
Yeah.
And it really chronicles the ups and downs and some of the things that I've dealt with in my life where somebody would have hid under the covers and I said no, because there's a lesson there for my soul to learn.
Yeah.
So I can continue to grow and evolve. And I take that right into my business. My most joyful moments are when I'm coaching my clients and I'm with them witnessing those breakthroughs and we're causing those breakthroughs together. And when I'm writing, and I'll tell you a little story. Monday, I wrote my blog for the week and got it ready for my email, which I never do ahead of time. I always wait till the last minute, which is not a very joyful state of being.
Yeah.
Right? I get annoyed, I get frustrated with myself. And then I found a new platform to post it on, and within minutes, like 10 people had read it, and I went, oh, 9 people, I don't know, read that I just wrote. Isn't that amazing? That wasn't the most important part. It was that my passion in life is to write, and I wrote something, and it was an expression, and it made a difference for me, and I'm always committed to making a difference for somebody else, and that's joy. When joy is fueling my business, it's like time stops. You said that before. There's no separation between me and my clients. There's no separation between me and the audience when I'm doing my stand-up. There's just that oneness. When I'm worried about, well, do I need to market it this way or that way? Or I'm worried about how much time I have in the day, or worried about getting dinner on the table or whatever it is. There's no joy in that. There can be. There can be.
There can be everywhere,
Yeah,
can't there?
everywhere. Yeah.
But how fun is that? And I love the fact that you were talking about the joy that you received in the writing process and the joy you received from seeing other people enjoy it.
Yes.
Right? I think that real joy comes from within, but I'm not going to lie, it is really cool when people like, I mean, when you
Yeah.
really hit a home run with the sermon,
yeah.
bam, it feels good, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
It does.
It does.
Because you think you've impacted someone.
Yes.
But to know that you were still in that place of creativity, I just think joy and love and creativity, it's all that divine place. Give us the play perspective. How does that work with you? I mean, let's go ahead and do this. Let's give a little explanation about what you do. Because I know there's some people who think of play therapists specifically as therapists for children.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's different than what you do.
Yeah. Well, in truth, I'm a coach. I'm a coach and a facilitator, and I work with organizations and with individuals. So it's not entirely play focused. However, I have taken a stand for play as a necessary part of everybody's happiness, success, and coming to terms with ourselves. Self-acceptance. So play winds up in everything I do, and I build it in. You heard me speak at a conference about the importance of play in the workplace and how it fuels creativity. So I call myself a play co-activist because I want the world to play. I'm not going to say a cuss word right now. Dang it. And that's the activism piece. But in fact, play is so much about connection. Back to the joy being about connection. That's where the co comes in. When we can help each other play and be connected in that process, everything's better. So
now speak a little bit about, because I saw it in real time. Mandy and I were actually both presenters at a particular workshop, and we didn't know each other prior to that. But I saw how the audience reacted to the games that you gave them.
Yeah.
So speak just a little bit about the bonding connection process, but also how that spurs creativity. Because that can go for the family,
Yeah.
the church, your organization, your
Right.
business, whatever your business is.
Well, the purpose of the games is to allow people. They're simple games. So improv. I'm sure you've done improv. I don't know if you have, Rev.
On
Rev.
dates, probably.
In your own way, you certainly have. The purpose of any game and of true play, what it does is it gives people a chance to loosen their grip on whatever's going on for them, and to simply get into what they're trying to create. And so, for instance, the very first activity that people did that day that I spoke was really intended to just kind of loosen folks up. And I had everybody turn to their neighbor and draw one another in 30 seconds, 60 seconds. And all you could hear around the room was nervous laughter and, I'm sorry, this is not what it looked like. But what it did was open the space for people to just relax a little bit. And it gave us a chance to learn what I think is, or have an awareness of what I think is so important, is that we could just maybe take ourselves a little less seriously, you know? And I think when we recognize our humanity, that's when the space comes in for reverence, you know, for what really does matter. And the other games from there were really about giving people a chance to just focus on having fun and creating together, and knowing that there were hardly any rules. You know, there was hardly any. Yeah, I'm interested. How was the experience for you of doing some of those games?
For a rule chick, it was like, okay,
Okay.
am I supposed to do this or that? So
Right.
it was actually fantastic, because once I realized there was no grade, it really, I could still go home to my family. It really was going to be fine.
Yeah.
It was lovely. It was lovely. Yeah, it was
And
great.
did you experience additional creativity or an opening, like a lightness as you went forward in the activities?
I did, and one of the reasons that I have you here today is because I was so mesmerized by watching the group.
Yeah.
I'm the chick that's in the workshop looking how everybody else is responding, and I thought that was such a lovely way to engage. And also, there wasn't a CEO sitting next to an assistant. It was like, oh my gosh, did you get the answer to 2? I don't know what that one is. And there was a camaraderie that I just thought was lovely. And I saw it spur this creativity, even for the rule people, but which you need to, like, that you got to get off of that. I had to, so I thought it was great.
I'm glad to hear that. Everybody that I've worked with seems to think it's great, and so many people resist. How many? I'm sure that you have run into people who say, maybe you're one of those people. Adults will say, I tell them what I do, and they say, well, I don't play. And I sat at a pottery painting place one night with a couple of friends talking about play, and one of them said, well, I don't play. And I said, you're sitting here right now painting pottery. What?
Right.
What? And she said, oh, that's different. I don't remember what she said, but we all have rules, all of us. I have 5 gajillion rules, and what play does is give us a place, hopefully. I want to stop talking in a minute because I'm talking too much. It's one of my best things, though. Safety is a big part of play, and if there's a chance, I'll come back to that. What play does in theory is it allows us to put aside the rules long enough to take a risk, to connect with others and engage in something fun and see what happens.
I think it takes us back to the divine place. I really do. And I'm really proud of myself, because it's taken me almost 20 minutes to mention my grandbaby, and you guys know it's usually like, but I was one of those. I was first born in my family. My parents were both always very ill. There just wasn't a lot of playing. And when I had my kids, it was you having your kids, and then you go to work, and it was getting my MBA, and there just wasn't, it wasn't me. My sister was the fun one, right? I was the one that got my stuff done. And now with my grandbaby, I'm just a pile of mush. It's ridiculous. I'm everything I thought I wouldn't be. And as a matter of fact, I had sent Mandy an email. I get on, this kid's 12 months old now. last week I was on the floor barking like a dog, crawling around because he laughed. I'll do
Right.
anything if
To
this
make-
kid laughs
Yeah.
at me. And we're playing, and no matter what he picks up, what I realized and why I think this is so divine, it gets us out of those boxes and preconceived
Yeah.
notions, which is our
Yeah.
ego place, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So if I have a pen and I know this is a pen, we have to write with a pen, that's what you're supposed to do. You know, to a child, that's a magic wand. It could be a bridge for elves. It could be all
Yeah.
kinds of things. There are no not
Rules.
many rules.
And
There's
limits.
no limits.
No
Right.
limits.
Yep.
That's exactly right. There's no limits. So after I've spent some time with my grandson, then the creativity, it's like I could do a class on this, and I
Right.
need to speak on this, and I should write this. The creativity switches. And I really think part of it's because I just got out of my own way, and I took my big girl hat off, panties off, whatever, it's off, and I'm just in the moment. It's the other thing with the kids, or rather you're with children, you're engulfed in whatever your hobby is, when you are fully present here.
Yeah.
You're not worried about the past, you're not worried about the
Right.
future or breaking the rules or whatever it is. You are just here. I think God and love and joy is in the now.
Yep.
That's where I find it.
I want a watch that just says now. Doesn't have numbers on it.
that's
Just goes
good.
now.
That would be so
now,
great.
I
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
have one that says now in the middle and all around the edge is happiness. So it's happiness now, happiness now.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. But that's what I'm thinking, that this joy really does infuse everything.
Everything.
So I agree with what you all said as well with my clients. As wonderful as it is to be with them and work with them, man, when you see the light bulb go off, there is just nothing better. And it's not that they have to see your way, it's they found their own way. They've
Right.
tapped into their own inner divine wisdom. That's what's fantastic.
Yep. Yep.
And it doesn't make any difference if it's relationships or health or anything, does it?
No.
No.
I love the moment when I was working with a client yesterday and she got the good, bad news, about herself just by me asking questions.
Right.
She realized she's a bystander in her own life. But she was so happy about it. She's like, this is what I've been waiting for. I can't believe that we figured that out. I was like, look, I'm the conduit. You were there. I just asked some questions. But there can be joy when you were talking before about somebody who may be undergoing depression or sadness, right? There still can be joy even in those moments, even in the simple drinking of a cup of tea. You can find that connection right
If you're
there.
fully present.
If you're
Yes,
fully
you're
present
present,
in
yes.
that moment to connect with the higher power, whatever you believe in that cup of tea for that moment. And if you have no other moments, you had that moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
And
know
it's such
that
a freedom.
it really is a freedom.
Yeah, it is.
I know at the end of my dad's life when he he had dementia. When I finally could realize this is my dad here now, then I could love him where he was, and it was delightful. Would I have wished that? Probably not consciously, but boy, it was just to be able to see the beautiful spirit that he was
Yeah.
just fantastic. So now, I was just talking about my grandbaby. Give me some examples of places where you've seen models of joy, or what reminds you to be joyful? Are there people, places, what kinds of things?
For me, I just mentioned earlier that I just got back from India, and I go to India a lot to work on myself and to learn different techniques. And one of the things that we were working with is developing this a spiritual vision, which is
right.
it's sort of like, how do you want your internal state? It's not your mission, it's not about the doing, it's not what you do, but how do you want your internal state to be so that you come from a place of whatever it is that you decide in all your actions. And we were to write a simple statement. And mine was joyously connecting through loving and allowing. And something about all of those have great meaning for me. Those were joyously, first I had connecting, then I said, no, I've got to have joyously connecting. And love through loving and allowing. And what that does is when I am not in that state, my internal state of interacting with life and people from that place, I'm aware of it. And if I'm triggered or feeling like, maybe upset, anger, separation, disconnection, whatever, the moment I say, no, my internal state is that I want to engage by being joyously connected to whatever it is through loving and allowing it to be. And therefore, when I say I allow it, I don't have resistance towards it. You're not, however you are, it's okay. Whatever is happening is okay. Doesn't mean I won't make a choice to do something different, but I'm not struggling inwardly against it, resisting, wishing it were different, wishing you'd be. It's okay. And I'm going to connect to what is through joy. And just having that statement, it has been just so freeing, and it brings me back to center. When I'm off and I said, you know what, this is not how I want my internal state to be. I want to joyously connect through love and allowing it to be. And bam, there I am.
So your examples of joy have been through really bringing yourself back.
Bringing myself
Bringing yourself back to that. Because
that.
we're all going to go down the road a little bit sometimes, but you can always get off the exit.
And the moment I come
Right
back,
on
it's
back.
like, yeah, I want my internal state to be one of joyous connection. And just by saying it moves me into that space.
Because you're aware of it.
Yes,
You
because
can't change what you're not aware of, right?
Exactly.
So Jen, what about you? What are some examples of joy that you've seen, interacted, influenced you?
Well, it's funny. My office is painted yellow. It was my mom's favorite color, first of all, but it is a joyful color for me. And one wall is completely blank, except there's this giant wooden sign that says "Happy Place." Because like a 6-year-old, all I want for the world is everybody to be in their happy place, whatever their happy place is. And then I have my vision board, but it's actually a string of Christmas lights with clothespins where you used to put your cards, but all my pictures for my vision board are strung on there. So one thing is to be able to reconnect with what I'm truly here for and remind myself of that. The other thing is to phone a friend. I always find that in the darkest moments where you want to hide under the covers, where you think, I don't want to burden anybody with how I'm feeling, I feel terrible about doing that. If I pick up the phone and call somebody, they will remind me of who I am. They will remind me of what I've said to them. And then the third thing is, I always tell myself, what are you worried about right now? Is this a first world problem? Because there's so much happening in the world. Puerto Rico still has no power. I mean, seriously, there's people there still don't have any power, still don't have any heat, still don't have any clean water. What are you upset about? Really, that guy cut you off on the road? So, and finding joy in the little things, watching somebody allow someone else to ease into the traffic, right?
And see how excited.
And see how that made that person's entire day. Holding the door for somebody. So those little moments.
Yes.
So joy while it is a state of being, you can also cause and create it moment to moment.
Yes.
In
It's
the little
contagious.
things.
Yes.
It's contagious.
It's so
It
contagious.
is very
Yeah.
contagious.
Definitely.
Best thing to be contagious about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to be inoculated against that. You want
No,
more of
no,
that.
no,
Right.
no. Other way. If you can have
Yeah.
an uninoculation where you'd have more of it or something, you get a shot and then there's more joy. That'd be
Oh
great.
yeah.
Well, there's an increasing quality to joy, right?
Yeah.
The more you have it, it expands, it increases, it
Yeah,
grows.
as long as you're giving it away.
Yes.
Right,
yes,
when you're giving it
yeah.
away. So you may feel joyful and happy, but I bet, and I'm looking for myself just as I'm saying this, if I sit with it by myself, like, oh, I want to hold on to this moment,
Right.
it dissipates so quickly.
Right.
But if I consciously think about, you know what, who can I call right now? Who can I just share with? Who can I say? This is always my question to people, how can I contribute to you and your business? How can I contribute to your life?
Right.
How are you doing? Simply asking that question can make somebody's day in a moment.
And when you're thinking of giving away, really, you can't. It's not like you have limited joy,
Yes.
right? So really, you
Right.
radiate joy.
Right.
Yeah, it's not
When
like a
somebody's
Snickers.
in that
Contain it. If
place-
it's real joy, it can't be contained. It has
No,
to just-
but it's like if people think about it, like, oh, I have a Snickers and you want half, I'm going to give you half and I got less.
Right. No,
No,
it's not
you
the
give
way
away
joy.
joy. You got more. You got 5 Snickers now.
Right.
I just
Well,
gave you a
right.
Snickers
even
and you
more.
a Snickers and you a Snickers.
Yeah.
I got like you go on sale after Halloween and you get the bag of the Snickers. You got Snickers on the table, covered in Snickers.
And it's because we're connecting to that joy that
Yep.
binds us all, because
Right.
it's that inner
Yep.
It's
divine
an,
connection.
and it's an energy
Yeah.
too.
It's totally
It
an
absolutely
energy.
is
energy.
the energy. It's
Yeah.
the energy of love, and yeah, it
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
Mandy, what about you? What is a joy influence for you? What have you seen? Maybe you saw somebody use play in a creative way. What is it that has motivated you to really look at joy from this place of co-creating and sharing and radiating and everything else we're talking about today?
I just have to check one thing. Do you have any Snickers with you?
Yeah, I know. I was afraid you were going to say that. Let me. I'm kidding. No, I don't.
Clear.
This is
Okay.
a Snicker-free
Zone.
All
Snicker
right,
free.
fine.
Snicker free.
I just had to.
But I'll snicker if you laugh. Sorry.
That was good.
It
Thank
took you
you.
more longer than I thought it would to get one of those, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So
Joyful influences or models for you.
yeah, you asked a different part of the question, and I had something, but I just couldn't. I had to have the Snickers part out. Joyful influences. For me, I don't have to look any further than my grandnieces, and I have. They're getting a little older now, but the one who lives near me is just. She's just trouble on two legs. That's the only way to say it. And she actually, she was diagnosed at 18 months with inoperable brain cancer. And she's going to be turning 10 in June.
Wow.
Nobody saw that coming. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think the universe saw that coming, among other people. And she's just always been, children are so naturally resistant when given the opportunity. And she's just always been this really happy person who wasn't until a few years ago that she even knew she had cancer, you know? And she's just rolled with chemo and everything else all these years, and all she wants to do is have fun. That's all she wants to do. And so all I have to do is call Lila, or she likes to text me at FaceTime me at 6 o'clock on Sunday morning. That's one of her favorites. But you know what? I'll rally if I hear it, because I know it's going to be fun.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's great.
And one thing that being around the grandnieces, and I have a grandnephew also, when they were really little, reminded me of is that any time is a good time to play a game, like make up a game.
It really is.
And that is one of my go-tos when I'm feeling depleted, put it that way. I get very honest about where I am and how I'm feeling, and I give it a voice. And that in and of itself shakes it off a little bit for me anyway.
Yes.
And then I make up a game about, oh my gosh, this is a horrible situation. How could I make it worse? You know, or lots of other games. And anything is fair game for a game.
You know, when you were talking about the little ones, whether it's little kids or kittens, little anything.
Yes.
I love the spirit of curiosity.
Yeah.
And to me, my go-to is watching babies laugh at kittens on YouTube. There's nothing better. It's just like, oh, I'm not feeling too good today. Well, let me see. Oh, look at that kitten. Just to see the innocence, which is another one of those original attributes or traits: joy, innocence, that willingness to just not have your borders, not have templates to this is what playtime should look like.
Right.
This is what I should be doing here.
Right.
When you take out the shoulds, life gets a lot more fun, doesn't it?
It's kind of messy when you should on yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's happened to me before, and it was not
I
pretty.
know, me too.
It was not pretty. So let me ask you this: what do you think gets in the way of our joy? Now, understanding that there might be medical issues or
Right.
psychological issues for just regular in your life, what kinds of things get in the way of your joy, do you think? Reverend
Well,
Sylvia?
she just said it, you know, having a preconceived notion as to how things should be.
Right.
So
How
attachment,
attachment,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
the A word that we're not supposed to do, right? The attachment.
right,
no.
attachment or expectations even, you know, this is, I'm expecting this, and when it doesn't happen, now I'm moved into a sad state. All of those things, and or whether society says, well, this is the box, these are the borders, this is the parameters, this is what a good minister does. I'm at the point now, I'm on the tail end of my career. It's like, you know what, this is what I do.
You do joy.
And so I do joy. My mother goes, oh, you like to make them laugh. Why not? Who says spirituality has to be the serious little thing in the box? You know, that's why I'm going to do her comedy show. Why not?
And if it's joy,
And
why
if it's
wouldn't
joy,
it be?
yeah. But we get in the way.
I think you're
Yeah.
right.
We get in the way. So it's about taking off our sense of self even and just allowing. There's a phrase that's called causeless joy. And that's a place where I want to live, where it's causeless. Nothing is really causing my joy other than the sheer fact that it is. And I've opened up a way from whence the imprisoned splendor can be released, and that comes as joy.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I love what you said also about the expectations. I think that it's lovely to set intentions, and you know, there's certain things living in this society, you're paying your mortgage, you're doing, you know, those kinds of things. But I find when I was in a place in my life where I had things very tightly controlled, there was no room for surprise.
Right.
There
Oh,
was
surprise.
no room
Yeah.
to be delighted because
Yes.
I had delighted schedule for 6,
Right.
6:15.
Oh, yeah, or
I was
6:07. Oh,
Yeah.
you missed that window, forget about it.
Sorry. Right? So, I mean, that element of surprise
Yeah.
and delight and unexpected wonder, I think, really helps. So I know for me, just having to have everything tightly controlled because of what I was doing in my own life and my own issues, really, I missed out on a lot of
did.
fun because I didn't have it on the schedule.
Yes, exactly.
Quite frankly, what do you think gets us? How do we get in the way of joy? Do you
I think when we step over things, and what I mean by that, if let's do an analogy here. If you've got a dog,
Okay.
and you let the dog in the backyard, the dog poops in the backyard. If you don't scoop up the poop and give him a clean place or her a clean place to roam, self-expression is severely limited. Or they start stepping in their own messes and then drag those messes around with them. We do the same thing.
we do drag our messes.
We drag
with
our
us.
messes around with us. If we step over something, let's say, you know, I had a situation last week where I was talking with a friend and I said something and she responded in a very sort of strident, opinionated way. In my world, that's how it came across. And I had a reaction to it based on my family and my upbringing and some things that happened to me. And, you know, we started like sandpaper, not getting along, and we made it through. And I thought a lot about that, and I thought, okay, when someone has an opinion, it's fine, but if they're opinionated, that causes a reaction. So now I know I learned from that situation. I can call her and say, you know what, here's what I know about myself. Here's this reaction based on my upbringing. So when we're talking and I notice myself reacting that way, could you say something a little more gently until I can be in the groove with you? But if I step over that, the next time we're together as friends, that little
Yes.
is going to be in the space, and our self-expression is going to be here, and then the next time it's going to be here, and you step over this thing until you are this like rigid being, and you're not free out there really expressing yourself.
You just said something really
Connecting.
important too. You were aware of what baggage you brought to the table in that interaction.
It took me a while. It took me, this was almost a week ago, and it took me literally, I think it was yesterday, I was speaking about it with somebody, and I went, oh, that's what it is. That's why I got triggered. So now I have the space to call her and say, you know, I had already apologized to her because I don't like reacting to anybody that way, but now I can say, okay, here's what I saw for myself. It was actually out of coaching somebody this morning.
Isn't that fascinating though? And I do want to just talk about that for another second because I just think that is really important.
Yeah.
When you're looking for joy outside of yourself, you might have some fun. I'm not going to say you're not.
Right.
But that joy, real deep, authentic joy, comes from what you're cultivating and understanding where your triggers are. When you're aware, then you can make different choices. Do you find that to be true?
Absolutely. And what you
Absolutely.
said, going back to what Reverend Sylvia said about joy being an energy, when you're looking for anything, love, joy outside of yourself, it's a
Anything.
force that pushes everybody away.
Yeah.
When you're looking inside, and then from the insideness that you're looking from, you're then bringing people in with you as you're sharing that. That's a force that brings people and
Right.
situations and miracles and the unexpected to you.
Yes.
And don't you love
Most
what
definitely.
Reverend Sylvia said too about the allowing?
Yes.
To me,
Yeah.
there's already joy in here. I've just got piled a bunch of stuff on top. To allow it to come out, do you know what I mean? That to me is because it's a natural state.
Yes.
If joy is one of our natural states, and I believe that it is, and I think that we learn not to be in joy, then by allowing that to come out, that changes everything, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
and that's the cleaning up of wherever we've stepped over things, including with ourselves. Where you
Always
know,
with ourselves, isn't it?
always with ourselves,
with
and that's the
ourselves.
hardest thing because I think I always get, and I don't know about y'all, but I always find when I've upset somebody else, I make it more of a priority to figure out what that was. But when I do something like, oh, I know I want to work out 4 times this week, and I only worked out 2, and then I ate that sleeve of Girl Scout cookies, Thin Mints, because I picked them up.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was a serving. They said on the side of the box, sleeve was the serving, and I ate
Yeah.
that whole thing. Yeah, last night.
Yeah.
Sleeve, exactly. So then you've got to be able to clean up that mess with yourself, but not beat yourself up, because that's the other thing we do. We beat ourselves
Another
up.
ego
Oh,
tool,
yeah.
isn't it?
Totally another ego to let it go. You know, we've only got this moment, and then this
Exactly.
moment, and this moment.
That's
let it
right.
go. What are you wasting your time for?
Yeah.
Exactly. Time is precious.
Yeah.
So, Mandy, you've talked a little bit about people who don't think that they're programmed for play or they don't know how to play. What other kinds of things do you think get in the way of joy and play? Is it just simple as having people giving themselves permission? What do you think it is? What are some of the things you've seen in your practice?
Well, I think permission is one of the magic words. And it's what we've all been saying in different ways is that where we rob ourselves of joy or where we don't have access to it is when we're trying to be something other than ourselves.
Bingo.
That's what it comes down to.
Exactly.
And as a self-certified play co-activist, one of my missions on earth is to give people permission to be themselves.
Yes.
And that's so hard. There are days when I would like to be anybody other than myself, or I could, keep my name but just be totally different otherwise, right? We all have those days. And but when we can give ourselves permission to just let it go, like you said, let it go, relax, give into ourselves, get over ourselves, whatever you want, whatever words you want to use, and just choose to be fine on that given day, warts and all.
That's right.
That can really, that's when we can embrace our humanity, and that's when we can lighten up and go, oh, okay, I might be able to find some joy today, and maybe even a Snickers.
Yeah. Right? And allow,
And allow it
I think that's a really good point, understanding that people think they should be this or that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like I should act this way at my age, and I don't.
the box.
Right? I don't. Or I don't,
Yeah.
don't act the way my mom did or my dad
Right.
did or whatever. How interesting is that?
My
key.
talk last Sunday was called "Get Over Yourself."
There you
I
go.
saw
great.
that.
Did you?
I haven't
It's like,
watched
get
it
over
yet, but I'm
yourself.
gonna. Yeah,
Yeah, if we could
Yeah.
just do that, we'd have much more joy.
I think
I
so.
think you're right, and I think that we're so busy sometimes trying to be someone else, we
Right.
forget each one of us, each one of you is a divine spark. And why should you be different? You're perfect and divine. Your
as
ego
is.
could use some help. I think that's
Right.
true. But the true part of you is
right.
absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and that's the joy from within, yet we chase joy like a cougar at a frat party during freshman orientation week. Right? Like we're chasing it. Where's joy? Where's joy? Where's joy? Have you seen joy? I'm looking for a little joy. It's within. And it's always there.
It's always there.
It's always there. Allowing it.
And you know what? To your point, when we look for it out here, maybe we get it sometimes. But if we, no matter how much we get, we're insatiable
Yes.
because
Yes.
we're not giving it to ourselves. We're not allowing ourselves to simply be who we are.
Yeah.
And I'm having the courage to accept yourself. It's not for the faint of heart.
It is
I get that, and that's why it's so important to allow yourself to have moments of play and joy, and to realize
Be
that
silly.
we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
And the boat is going to sink. So
Yeah.
just
Totally.
have
Is
a
there
good
Snickers in the
time.
boat? Are there Snickers in the boat? Or-
Yeah, let's get Julie to cruise
Enjoy
together
it,
in a bar.
I
And
mean,
yeah.
we're only here for a while, so
Right.
let's
Yes.
have a
Yeah.
good time.
Yes.
Be loving and respectful.
Yeah.
But I think where the respect comes is that we don't respect ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we haven't learned to love ourselves.
Right.
And to me, that love and joy is so intertwined. I was thinking about this on the drive in. If I am really enmeshed in something that I'm writing or something I'm creating, and it could be cooking, it could be anything. But what I'm saying to myself is, oh my gosh, I love this. I love this so much.
Yeah.
Right? To me, love and joy is just so intertwined.
Yeah.
And that's why I know each one of us absolutely has this capacity. Because I just think we are at our core love, the energy of love, that creative, intelligent, ever expanding energy of love. And that's why I love the idea of joy being this ripple effect that you get from anybody. I mean, you can laugh. I know when I start laughing at myself, and literally it's me and the cat. And I start laughing at myself, and I'll look at the cat and go, "Did you see what I just did?" And she's like,
Yeah.
and that's even funnier.
Yeah.
But when you have people to laugh with, then that reinforces that joy. I mean, there's just nothing better, is it?
Yeah, nothing better.
You know, I want to come back to the idea of safety because
Please do.
that's part of what we're talking about here. It's not easy for everybody to access their joy if they're not safe, you know, if they're not secure. And there's a guru of play, a wonderful man named Stuart Brown, who's written the seminal book on play. And the way he got into that work was because he was asked to interview the Texas Tower shooter back in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and one thing he learned there, and through other people he's interviewed over time, is that people like that often have been deprived of play as children because there's no safety in their environment. I mean, that's not a direct cause and effect, but so for joy, maybe not for joy to be present, but for true play to be present, there has to be enough security in the space that you can take the risk, you know? And so I was thinking about you and your cat, there's safety there. You can be yourself. And that's part of what we're talking about when we are in our joy and we can connect with others, we can help create safe spaces for others, which is what all of us do in our professional lives. And that's what we do.
And hopefully in our personal lives as well, but I think that's a
maybe.
great point. I know there's friends of mine that actually, remember the earthquakes we had in Haiti several years ago? They go down once or twice a year and they work in clinics and things there. And the husband of this couple actually works with the kids, teaching them soccer. And it was amazing to hear them talk about these kids right after what has to be the most horrific event that ever could occur in a very economically deprived area, finding a stick to play with. Because there was the trauma all around, and of course mom and dad and everybody's trying to do what they need to do, but the ones that were able to just, I don't want to say distract themselves in a bad way, but to find a way to get through that kind of horror with play was so impressive. And then when the adults helped too, they still had plenty of things to do, and obviously they did what they needed to, but play was an essential element in helping those communities come back from a horrific situation. And I think because it's an extension of love. I just think it's an extension of love. So let's give our viewers at home some ideas. If they want to just go about reconnecting to that joy, let's each give them a couple tips. So Reverend Sylvia, what are a couple tips you can give people that really want to reconnect to that joyful place or allow it?
To allow it. Yeah, I think to find something that perhaps you've always wanted to do but didn't feel safe enough or comfortable enough to do it, and just be willing to take a baby step, to give yourself permission to do something that you've always wanted to do and you haven't. Doesn't have to be the whole kit and caboodle, just a little bit of movement. And then to remember who you really, really are, especially in times when it seems like, life is really harsh, but to remember that there's a beauty and there's a goodness to life. And then to say to yourself, I'm going to find one thing that I can be grateful for, thankful for, or joyous over and with about. Just sort of looking for that within yourself that you can release and express. And just being aware of what's happening in your internal world. Right. A lot of times we are very unconscious about what's going on inside. So if you can just be present to your own self to say, what am I really feeling? And if it's not what you choose to feel, you can make another choice.
Oh, perfect. Great. Jen, what do you think?
I'm going to build off what Reverend Sylvia just said, which is number one, check in. How are you really feeling? Because we so are not present because we have technology and phones and we have to be places and we're scheduled. figure out with what's going on in the world today, there's a lot of sadness, there's a lot of grief, there's a lot
Yeah.
of anger, there's a lot of frustration, all
Fear.
those things. Fear, a lot of fear. 99% of the time, it is not yours. So ask the question, is this mine? What am I feeling right now? I'm feeling angry. Is this mine? No, return to center with consciousness. Okay, what am I feeling now? And keep doing that until you get a place of your natural state, which is joy, which is laughter, which is love, all those things. Say the second thing is to create a mindset of gratitude. How do you do that? At the end of the day, I do two things. I write in my journal everything I accomplished that day. Because oftentimes I don't remember what it is I've accomplished because all I'm thinking about is what I haven't done.
What you had to do.
Oh, I was supposed to take the garbage out. I was supposed to do this. I was supposed to do that. No. Write down what I have accomplished and then 5 things I'm grateful for. It could be that day, I'm grateful I had a bath with some lavender and rosemary oils in there to take the pain away from my back. You know, I'm happy I had my cup of tea. It doesn't matter. Or it could be, I'm happy I had that argument with my friend because this is what it taught me about myself. But you're actually creating new neuronal pathways in your brain and creating
Exactly.
different chemicals in your brain so you can experience that joy. So those would be my top 2 or 3. I don't know how many of those were there.
I always think
Great.
gratitude is a doorway to
Yeah.
the divine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Absolutely.
Mandy, what would you add to that for our friends at home?
Well, I will just echo the themes of the first things that both of you said, which have to do with awareness and gratitude.
Yep.
And for me, I'm a fan of just giving into myself, you know, just, okay, how do I really feel? And just go for it. You know, sometimes I usually turn it into a little children's song, you know.
Perfect.
So I don't know that that's a universal tip, though. For those of you out there who like to sing, try turning anything that's bothering you into a kid's song and then sing it to your pets or your children or yourself. Gratitude is essential, right? Because it gets us grounded in what's working and what is dear to us in any given day. You know, a cup of tea, great example. I would if it were to have happened, I would have added, you know, got a Snickers for tonight on my gratitude list. But yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah, not that.
Yeah.
Not
I'll
that.
have to find something else.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that then to basically give yourself permission to do something. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be fancy. Something that will you'll feel good about. If you want to try to do a somersault and you know it's not going to work out, but it seems like it would be really fun, do a somersault. Just don't hurt your neck.
Right.
So go to something that you know traditionally has made you happy in the past.
Or even in the moment, give in to the whim of the moment.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. If it's, and of course if it's not self-destructive, you know,
Right.
sometimes the whim of the moment is an entire bottle of wine. And that's not what I'm talking about, because that's not actually
Feed your
staying
soul.
with yourself and
Anesthetizing or numbing yourself.
yeah,
Something.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
I think all those are really good tips.
I got 2 more.
Oh, great.
I'm going to add a couple too.
Okay, good. Go
And then we're actually almost done. I can't believe this because this is how much fun it's been today. I think the gratitude is absolutely fantastic. Meditation for me
Yep.
is a way that keeps me grounded. That's one thing I do. And I also have my, you're talking about your happy place. I have my little joy list. So there are, the stories they always tell at Thanksgiving about what funny Uncle Billy did, and it
Yeah.
always makes you laugh even 30 years ago. I think about that, or I have music.
Yes,
And
music.
I have music. So it gets me out of whatever that sad place was enough to get a fresh perspective.
Yeah.
What do you
Well,
want to add to
music
that?
is great because I was
Dance.
thinking dancing. I was
Dancing.
thinking
Yeah.
dancing. Like
Don't
my
think
favorite
these
thing
hips
is
don't
funk.
dance
Like
when
go
my
turn on
music's
some of
on.
that, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
The other thing is we forget the sense of smell. There are smells and foods
Oh,
that remind us
yes.
of our childhood, but I'm thinking citrus oils, tangerine, grapefruit, orange. That's the zest of life. That's the thing that's going to fill you up. Go grab it. If you don't have essential oils, go grab an orange and open it up and inhale that scent, because that actually impacts your limbic system. It impacts your
Flowers.
brain.
Yes.
Yeah, flowers,
Yes.
exactly.
Anything
Buy
like
yourself
that.
flowers.
Yep.
Your favorite incense. I have this incense I love. It just automatically
There
just
you go.
opens me up and takes me to
look
the
how she just
divine.
opened up
I
the
know.
window.
I
Look at
I
that.
love it. I just burn it like, oh, I love this.
So as you can see, we're having a lot of fun here today.
Yep.
But Can you believe an hour's
I
done?
know, I can't.
Wow.
Really?
I'm sad.
Done.
I'm sad, but I'll
Yeah.
find my joy.
Yeah, you're going to find your joy. And I want to make sure you guys understand where you can find these wonderful ladies. So, Sylvia, Reverend Sylvia, please tell us if somebody wants to find out about you and your comedy show on Sundays. what website
Divine
do they go
Comedy.
to?
Divine comedy.
Divine Comedy.
Well, we
I
read
like
that
that.
before,
Or
right?
there's
You know?
another one. Go ahead.
Not Dante's Divine Comedy.
No.
www.unitywdc.org.
There we go. And we'll have these in the credits as well. And Jen, where can people find out more about you?
JenCoken.com. JenCoken.com.
Perfect.
Yep.
And Miss Mandy.
From higherground.com.
And then you can find out more about everything these wonderful women do. I just want to take a minute to say, I think this was fun. I think this was fun. And I think that you guys should go find your coffee friends or people at work or go have lunch and talk about what is fun for you.
Yeah.
What brings you
Joy, yes.
What is it that really helps you? Maybe you, some friends of mine actually did this. We created playlists of happy music, and
Yep.
I will say mine's from the last century, 90%. But still, and I noticed Highway to Hell was right in front of Love Train. Now, what does that say?
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. How weird is that? But if you're on that highway, you should get on the train. But why not?
Right.
Talk about it. Talk about it in your family. Talk about it. I know with holidays coming up.
How about just ask the question? You know, I personally, even though I'm very extroverted, I get really nervous walking into crowds and new groups of people. Simply saying, what brought you joy today? What
Yep.
brought you joy this week? Create conversations about joy. It's better than the other things we're talking about.
Exactly.
You know, even around a dinner table, whether it's business group, a professional group, your church, I think having a bowl with little questions in it that, what's the funniest movie you ever saw? Sometimes you need to find a funny movie.
right.
And you just created a game. I mean, that's really, it's
Yeah,
just
that's
a
great.
structure.
That's great.
I like to ask people, what was your favorite game when you were a kid? Or what was your favorite playground item?
Apparatus or thing
Sure.
doer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think I love the idea of the questions, and I like the idea of having
Yeah.
a container, even though it doesn't have to be a container, or you tape questions under chairs, or
Yeah.
something like that, or Easter eggs that have
That's a
the
great
little
game.
questions. So I think that would be something that was fun. But I encourage you, as much as I hope you've gotten out of it today, and I know I have, and I want to thank each of you because, like I promised, they all brought a slightly different perspective. What I really hope you got out of this is that you can have a more joyful life wherever you are. You can choose it. Certainly, if you're in a place where you need to get some help, go get some help. Sometimes, I know for me, I'll speak from my own experience, I got so much joy out of silly movies, dancing around in my basement with my cat, which is not pretty. I'll just tell you right now, it's not pretty. But it was fun, and she doesn't tell anybody. And just talking about joy. I had so much fun just thinking about what we were going to do today. Like, I couldn't sleep last night. Like, oh, I wonder what Mandy's going to say. Oh, I wonder what Jen's going to say. It just was fun. That kind of anticipation, I think, is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you so much for being here. I want to thank Reverend Sylvia, Jen, and Mandy. Thank you so much. Thank you. You guys all have to come back. I want to thank you for being part of Heart-Centered Success. I'm Diane Hayworth, and I'll see you next time.